This is one of the older original Remington 700 mLs. It's been equipped with a Savage style breech plug and 209 primer holder. So we're going to take a few shots today. The whole idea is to determine how much the conversion has cleaned up what used to be an incredibly filthy action. Prior to the shooting, you should be able to see how clean the action is right now. It's squeaky clean. This is our 209 primer holder, integral with the bolt. So we'll take a few shots. We're going to use Blackhorn 209. I've got some 100 grain volumetric charges, actually 70 grains by weight. We'll use some Federal Premium Trophy Copper Borelock bullets, and we'll try a couple different brands of primers, Winchester and Federal, just to see what primers happen to fit the best. But we've got a target set up at 100 yards. So let's take a few shots. We'll put the dog away, and away we go. The scope we're using is just a Weaver Classic fixed 4-power scope. So certainly not a high magnification target scope by any means. But for hunting purposes, that's all you need out to 150, 175 yards with ease. And the beauty of a fixed power scope, of course, is generally they're lighter weight, a little bit brighter because you've got less lenses to go through, and you've got constant eye relief. The eye relief never changes. It can't, because the magnification, of course, never changes. So I have no idea if we're going to be on the paper or not, but let's take a few shots and see what happens. That was a little bit of a hang fire there, which I didn't like. A slightly delayed fire, but of course I didn't clean the barrel or anything like that. We'll give it 2 more shots and see if our fouling shot took care of that issue. Alright, this will be our second shot. After the initial fouling shot, we'll see if ignition is a little bit better. There could have been a little residual oil in the barrel. I have no idea. That, unfortunately, was a miserable blooper shot with no recoil. You could probably hear by the off sound that was not good ignition at all. So we have a potential problem with Blackhorn 209. I'm not sure of the flash hole diameter, but not good news. So sounds like 777 loose powder might be the way to go, or even Pyrodex. Well, bad news with Blackhorn 209 and the Federal Borelock. That also suggests there's going to be problems with power belts, which as a generality are even worse as far as getting a tight seal than the Federals. Far worse. So, fortunately, we have other projectiles. I'm going to use some 300 grain Nosler ballistic tips, which have 458/50 MMP sabos. 300 grain bullets, good whitetail bullets, so we'll see if that solves our ignition problem. That was excellent. It cracked right off, so obviously If you're going to use Blackhorn 209, you're going to want a nice, properly fitting sabot with a 3 to 4 thousandths interference fit that loads firmly but smoothly. The first two shots with the Federals, the bloopers, didn't hit the paper. I'll take another shot with the 300 grain Muzzleloader ballistic tips and see if we have hit the paper. So the first two shots with the Federals, bloopers, poor ignition, didn't hit the paper. 300 grain Muzzleloaders, very good ignition, and bingo, we're on the paper. Although this is not an accuracy test, we're just trying to discuss function and cleanliness of the breech of the retrofitted 700 ml. It's always better if you can hit something. Once again, as long as we're using sabots, excellent ignition, cracked right off. We'll go down and check the target, but the holes are maybe 1.5 inches away from each other. We'll finish off the group before the barrel gets too hot, and then check out the target. All right, here we go with our third shot with the Muzzleloader 300 grain ballistic tip. Well, here it is. The first shot was to the right. Second two shots at 100 yards with a 4-power scope, touching holes. So that's pretty darn good. Obviously, to find the best combination, anybody would have to go through 4 or 5, maybe even 6 sabot combinations. But this is very good. Anytime you touch holes with a muzzleloader at 100 yards, that's a good deal. So as is, I'll take a look. I've got a tape measure. Even with the flyer, it's about 2 1/4 inches. So they're all 3 dead deer. But now that the last 2 are touching holes, it's got my curiosity up. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes of barrel cooling and take another shot. Take a 4th shot and just see what happens. Okay, just for fun, we'll take a 4th shot. These are the bullets and sabots I'm using. 300 grain Muzzleloader ballistic tips. And a good sabot. That's the 458/50 MMP sabot. Thinner petals, generally an accurate shooter. So we'll take another shot, see how it looks. Okay, one more shot with the Muzzleloaders. This will be our 4th shot. First shot was to the right. Next 2 were touching. So we'll just see what happens here. So there we go. Our first shot is the shot farthest to the right. The subsequent 3 shots with the Muzzleloader 300 grains. 2 touching, 1 the 3rd shot of the last 3, a little bit to the right. You can hear the dog panting out here, he's having a good time. So not bad. Our first shot was to the right, but the last 3 shots, even though our barrel's getting a little warm, 2 holes touching and 1 to the right, and that's right at 1.5 inches. So without doing any load development or trying other combinations, that's pretty darn good. That's all you're going to need for whitetail hunting out to 200 yards, 2 1/4 or so, with 100 grains of Blackhorn 209. And importantly, ignition was flawless, as long as we're using sabots. So there we are. You can see, compared to the original 3-way ignition system on the Remington 700 ml, big difference. Yep, there's a little mung there in the breech, but nothing that you can't wipe right off. We're certainly not burning scopes or anything like that. Just a little bit of normal 209 primer residue, but not much. So it cleans up the old 700 ml nicely. And as far as accuracy, this isn't an accuracy review for a gun no longer in production, But without working too hard, 100 grains by volume Blackhorn 209, 300 grain nozzlers, and bingo, you've got an 1.5 inch gun. So for most hunting applications, at least east of the Mississippi, you're good to go. 1.5 inch versus an 8 to 10 inch kill zone on a whitetail, no problem. So, and this of course is with a Weaver fixed 4-power scope. So I generally would use a little more magnification for poking holes in paper. 3x9 or 2.5 by 10. That's my idea of a general purpose hunting scope, that you can see something when you're checking your trajectory and sighting. You can see something not so much at 100 yards, but at 200 yards when you're doing your range work. 9 or 10 power magnification comes in handy. But certainly there's, as far as actually hunting, 4 power is plenty. Actually 100 yards, iron sights are good, at least for my old eyes, out to about 100 yards. Beyond that, I'm going to want some optics. So that's it. Good job.